that awkward moment before the red box goes on. I was just telling Derek, I eagerly anticipate seeing the red box with the word live in it, which is my cue to say we are live. And you've seen this gentleman, I think, more than a couple of times here. And just absolutely thrilled to have him back because he's got such an amazing story. And as if you need an introduction, Derek, if you would, please introduce yourself to the fans out there.
Hi again. Oh, I'm Derek Shulman of, Gentle Giant and also of Executive Heights fame, I guess. That's in the book, but it's great to be with you, Steve, again.
It's great to have you back, for sure. I think we're gonna drop the rock and roll channel and just start calling it the Derek Shulman channel. Rightfully so. This gentleman has led a remarkable life and career. You've heard me say this before, surrounded by music and creativity in so many forms. He first found fame as a teenager in the 60s pop and R&B group, Simon Dupree and the Big Sound, then pushed rock music to the outer edges in the 70s as a frontman of progressive rock pioneers Gentle Giant, who's having a renaissance, resurgence. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the 80s. He made a bold pivot into the record business, taking on senior roles at labels like Polygram, Atco, and Roadrunner Records. There he signed and developed artists including Bon Jovi, Dream Theater, Slipknot, Pantera, Men Without Hats, while also helping to revitalize the careers of legendary acts such as AC/DC and Bad Company. This incredible story is finally released. I know Derek is relieved. It's cleared customs. It's here in the States, and it's in some of your hands, but many of you still haven't pulled the trigger, and that's why we're here celebrating his autobiography, Giant Steps. So buckle up. Let's kick this show off. Brad, if you would, let's roll the video.
Thank you, Steve. You made it very easy for me.
All right, the adrenaline's going full on in honor of someone that we recently lost. I'm going to say, man, we're cranking it up to 11. I'm Steve Harkins, your host for the Rock and Roll Channel on TalkShopLive. Ladies and gentlemen, the frontman and leader, Gentle Giant, and legendary executive in the music industry. In fact, if I may be so bold, when you consider his body of work, you can't point to anyone else. I think the man deserves consideration in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's start that writing petition. I'll be the first to put my name down. So let's get it going. Derek, so thrilled to have you back yet again.
It's just great to be here again with you, Steve. It's I can't believe we're talking again, but I'm very happy to be here. Seriously.
Well, thanks. My goal is if we keep talking, we'll get to volume 2. We'll get that far.
I wonder what the MO was.
Now you know. And fans, if you'd like to ask Derek a question or have a comment, use the chat function. We'll get to as many as possible. We last left off covering your transition from artist to music industry executive, Polygram, and Atlantic. There's still some points, I want to touch on, which we'll cover. But one of my takeaways is just I was just absolutely impressed at how you were steadfast in maintaining integrity during an era in the music industry that was fairly wild, kind of like the Wild West in another millennium. And you really stood your ground. And I'm so impressed about that. Shouldn't be surprised whatsoever. But we were just talking about this before, but you were at Polygram when Spinal Tap, the first soundtrack in the film, was released.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, and it was. remember first seeing the movie in '84, and yeah, of course, everyone who was in the business or had been in a band could absolutely put themselves in that situation, and laugh at it and say, you know what this is like. I mean, you know this band, and you're right, you are this band, and I think I just, before we came on air here, I remember having there's a story that I knew Sharon and Ozzy really well because we were the same management. And when it came out, Sharon told me that when Ozzy saw the movie, it wasn't a mockumentary. It wasn't a funny movie for him. It was a documentary. He thought this is a really interesting, show about this band, Spinal Tap. I mean, he was laughing, but laughing not at them, but with them.
Right. Right.
But it was a brilliant mockumentary, and the fact that we've lost the guy who put it together, as well as other things, is just beyond comprehension to me.
Well, it's so true. You're right. The one fortunate thing for all of us is that we can continue to celebrate his legacy and the art that he's left us. And for any of you that haven't seen the follow up to Spinal Tap, now would be as good a reason as any. Took a long time, but they delivered. It's really enjoyable. I could share a couple quick things in Spinal Tap. A friend of mine was charged with escorting them when they were doing a tour and they were playing an industry event, and it was a surprise. So they had to do a sound check very late at night at the hotel, and so they had to take the the back stairs. And guess what happened? They got lost. They couldn't find the stage. That was one thing. And then I remember it was about 9 a.m. They were all dressed in their night shirts, so to speak, stocking caps, having just woken up. And before they were introduced, the head of Universal was sharing his excitement for presenting the band that we were about to see, and how it was going to break records at Universal with the release of their forthcoming album, and was going to just change the universe as we know it. And so everybody's thinking, who could it possibly be? And the curtain opens up, and of course it's Spinal Tap, and they start playing. And there was an older gentleman, I'm not going to say who he was or what music record chain he owned, but he was listening to it, and he was pretty upset with the music industry at the time. And he turned to me while they were playing, I think it was Big Bottom, and he said, "This is exactly why the industry is going down the toilet." And he got up and he left. So that's kind of my version of the Ozzy story with a record retailer who thought, Universal said, "This is the future of Universal music." And that was worth the price of admission alone, I have to say.
It didn't get the joke or understand that it was, it was supposed to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we also didn't talk about it. You did have some interaction with Elton when at Polygram, did you not?
Well, Elton was signed to Polygram at that time, but Elton was massive at that time. So yeah, we stayed in touch over the years, and I went to see a couple of his shows back in the '80s, but he was going through a tough time then, actually.
Right.
So it was a little more. It was a little less. It was friendly, of course, because we remained friends since 1967.
Amazing.
But yeah, he was going through a weird period during that period. But he was, I think he was married. I'm not sure whether he was married to the young lady in Germany from the engineer.
Right.
I remember, but he wasn't in good form at that point because of other reasons as well. But yeah, he was signed to Polygram. I saw a couple of shows and we chatted, but he wasn't relaxed at that point. It was a period where he was a little off center.
Yeah.
But he found himself after that, thank goodness.
Yeah, no kidding. It's somewhat of a miraculous story, and his, where he celebrated that incredible farewell tour, and he's still remaining active, which is great. Hey, let's hear from some of the fans. Jim C wants to know if there's any plans for a Steven Wilson remix of my favorite Gentle Giant album, In a Glass House.
Well, I'm in the process of finishing off the mix with with a guy called Eber Pinheiro, and it's possible that Stephen may well do the 5.1 and Atmos. So it's on the cards. It's possible, it's and I won't say I'll say possible. No, I won't say probable, but it's looking like it's going to come out in the second quarter of next year, and it sounds amazing. I'm really happy about how this high end AI has been able to not just separate the stems, but literally the tracks, and it's just amazing what good it can do as opposed to negative stuff we hear about, which is amazing. It's far more advanced than the Beatles one, which was good. This is a whole new era of AI, and it's been able to separate every instrument like their tracks. And Steven's asked to possibly have a listen and to do the Atmos and 5.1 mix. So if he does, then when he does, it'll be out in probably April or May next year.
That's great news. You did touch on that the last time we got together, and it has to be incredible to kind of revisit it, and hearing it the way you hear it. It's got to almost take you back in time, almost like a time travel.
Well, interestingly enough, when we did it, it was a very strange period of time for the band.
Right.
It was a hard, it was a dark time, if you like. But now I'm listening to it, and having remixed it and put things in which we didn't do, and made it sound like it should have sounded. I can look at it in a strange way, as really objective as opposed to subjective. And I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, holy shit, this is really good, man.
I love that.
I hate to say it like that. It's kind of bizarre to pat myself on the back, but
no, you've earned it. You've earned it, and you're going to share it in a whole new light. I think it's going to breathe new life to the fans as well, and for new fans that haven't been exposed maybe the first go around.
Yeah, no, it sounds really good, and I'm really proud of what it sounds like. I'd completely forgotten that that we could do this, and it's funny when you go back how many years, decades, and we're listening to what the band did, and it's like a new band to me in certain respects when you hear it again after not doing or not listening to it after God knows how many years. And I'm thinking, wow, I wish that there are other bands like this around that you could actually say, what? How did they do that? And I'm actually literally doing that in a glass house. A bizarre little twist.
Yeah, there we go. And Brian Becker is just saying flat out, thank you for your music, Derek. And I would just underscore that not only for Gentle Giant's music, but all that music that you brought to all of us with your ears, and as an A&R guy, and as head of labels. You've delivered so much important music, and that touches us to this very day.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the band. I've been very lucky in working with bands that I wanted to work with, and that were bands. I think I said this before, that in whatever genre they've been in, have been leaders in their field, and authentic bands. And the interesting thing, after we spoke, I thought about it, and the interesting thing was that just about every band I was involved with still has a career. They're still, and that says something about, authenticity, if you like. And I use that word again.
True.
Yeah, if you got to be, and I've got a lot of people who ask me how difficult, and ask me, how do you break through in today's marketplace when there's so much, it's like a maze of things that you have to do.
You're
And
right.
you have to, first of all, be really good at what you do, at playing your instrument. And then if you're in a band, not just really good, you have to be great. Forget really good.
Yeah.
And then, but also you have to be unique. You don't follow. You have to be. You have to be and do something that is yours. And you can't do it because you want to be rich and famous. That's a whole different animal. And
That's right.
unfortunately, a lot of people who are on TikTok and God knows what else, these other platforms, they see themselves, and they get all these likes and views and God knows what else, for views and likes, and they want to be instantly famous. No, first of all, what you have to do is be really, really good at what you do, or should I say, really great at what you do, and do something which is yours effectively.
That appeals to you first and foremost before you think of others, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't connect with you and speak to you as the creator, uh, then it's not going to stand the test of time, like a lot of the acts you're referring to.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's something I'm on the other, on the side that we're talking about, the executive side. I'm kind of proud of, because just about every band that I was involved with or worked with or signed, they'll still have a career.
Yeah.
And most of them are as big, if not bigger, than as they were when I first got involved with them.
Yeah, that really speaks volumes. It truly does. And we got Mike Zappa here. Not sure what his message is, but I wonder if he is a descendant of the one and only Frank. Maybe he'll chime in and say something I can comment on. Marco Sanchez, Gentle Giant, thank you for the music. One of the best prog bands! Exclamation points.
Well,
There you go.
Well, again, we didn't know we were prog when we played. We had no idea what it was. We just did what we wanted to do. And maybe it was selfish, but we didn't follow. Again, we didn't know about other bands. We were sequestered in a town called Portsmouth in England. And we just pushed ourselves first to be really, really good for ourselves as a band. And that's something I would say to new bands or musicians anywhere. If you're in a group, push yourselves to be great and do something that's yours. And then you take it on stage. And then if a few people come along and they like it, they'll tell other people.
Yeah.
That's the only way today that you will be able to break through.
You're right. I'm curious if you ever gave it some thought about what if, we turned the tables on the sequence of events and when you were a musician and considering to be a music executive, and we moved it up to present date. Could you possibly find yourself fulfilled and energized to be the executive that you were in today's environment?
The answer is a flat out no.
I kind of knew the answer, but I had to ask anyway.
It's just very. I don't know. It is a bit depressing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've visited these three majors, and basically A&R is all about analytics and views and likes and not about what hits you in the heart, the gut, and the head. And so it's just, for me, it's just so bizarre that it's about tech as opposed to your soul.
Yeah.
And that music is about soul. Music is about who you are as a person, not who you are as a machine.
That's really well said. Because AI can be used in a great way, and you just cited earlier how it's impacting the ability to breathe life into a previous recording of yours. That's exciting, but that's not tampering with the creativity, the process of creating that music.
No, exactly. It's a whole different. I mean, it's about our music that we are enhancing, if you like, or making it sound like we would like to have done when we were doing it, and then we did it too quickly, and it's able to separate the tracks which we would have done had we had the multi tracks. But that's a good way of using it. The other way to
Right.
to say, give me a sound that sounds like Oasis or something like that. It's just nonsense. It doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Derek's just saying great news about In a Glass House. Super excited about that. And Jim is just saying thanks for answering and sharing that it's coming out. Very exciting when it comes to fruition. Brian Becker, again, just super happy that you're here. And Don is saying, Derek, I saw you in Chicago with Giant in the 70s. Thanks for bringing such musical joy to our lives.
I feel honored that people are still remembering, and that's something that, again, I can look back on the decade we were together. In the book, of course, I do in fact reflect on my career, if you like, in music, and
Right.
it's still involved. And honestly, and I've had some interesting and probably successful times as an executive, and wonderful times actually. But honestly, the best time of my life was the decade when I was in Gentle Giant. I mean, I can't, it's such a feeling that, again, I can be subjective, I can be objective now.
Yeah.
And realize that what we were doing and what we did and together was something that you can't write on a computer. You can't write on a piece of paper and say, let's try this.
That's
It's
right.
something which is so natural. It was a natural form and a formation that developed into, and we were a real band. That's the other thing. We were a band that stayed together. We lived in the same town. The guys who came down became members. We lived in the same. We went out on tour together. When we weren't on tour, we rehearsed together. We didn't rehearse together. We were recording together, and we weren't recording together. We were in the same town. We go fishing together, so we were a real band, as opposed to guys living all over the place and sending files to each other.
That's right. Exactly. And that's my cue to say we're gathered here this evening to celebrate an absolutely brilliant autobiography titled Giant Steps: My Improbable Journey from Stage Lights to Executive Heights by the one and only Derek Shulman, co-written with John Wiederhorn. It covers in wonderful detail his early life, his musical career as an artist, including fronting Gentle Giant, his transition to an extraordinarily successful music executive. You heard me say it if you saw the first couple of shows, but this easily could have been broken into 3 separate storylines. I mean, it's just incredible. And you consider he had these amazing runs from Polygram to Atco to Roadrunner, and responsible for success stories such as Bon Jovi, Cinderella, to AC/DC, kind of a resurrection, and Pantera, Slipknot, and Nickelback, just to name a few. The book is finally out. The wait is over. And Rock and Roll Channel fans and TalkShopLive can order the copies right here, right now. And as Derek's way of thanking you fans, he's personally autographed copies purchased here on TalkShopLive, but there's only limited copies available. And I can tell you they're close to selling out. So hit the shop button on TalkShopLive on the socials, comment shop, and we'll DM you the link. The rest is quick and easy. And there's no greater way to show how much you appreciate such an important artist, as well as a man who brought other great artists to us, and now an author in Derek Shulman, by purchasing and owning a copy of his latest body of work, his book, Giant Steps. Now, Derek, we touched on Cinderella, where Bon Jovi called out Tom Kiefer as a must-see for you.
Yeah.
You signed him. I think it was in lightning quick time, maybe within a week or something like that. And you were working closely with manager Larry Mazer. who, by the way, I reached out to him before the show and sends all of his best and appreciation towards you. And I asked for a little testimonial. Don't worry, you're not going to have to edit this. It's all good. Larry told me the story where a number of bands who had been signed that he was responsible for to various labels, none of the records really panned out. He was married with 2 kids, not much coming in financially, and miraculously landed a mortgage with not much credit history behind him or money in the bank. And I had to wonder how he's going to make those mortgage payments. The deal happened with Typher, and you suggested that he kind of realign the lineup, which was a good call. And then you told him the great news that initial orders came in at 50,000 units, which he said was fantastic because that was probably more than all the first 5 bands had sold combined. But he says he'll never forget the day the album came out, which was June 26, 1986. And you called him and you asked if he was sitting down. He was ready to hear the news that your label was dropping the band. But you, in fact, told him first day reorders was 3 times the initial placement, 150,000 copies. And that changed his life in so many fronts. And he said he never will forget that day you called him and what it meant for him as a manager, as a husband and a father, and also for his artist. And he sends his best and thanks you for that.
Well, that's really sweet of Larry to tell you that story. And I didn't know. I was aware that he was, he wasn't broke, but he wasn't. But I'm just happy that for both Larry and Tom and the band, because Tom is, I recognize Tom as someone who was just an absolute genius. And I remember that story when I asked Larry, does Tom have any demos? He gave me a CD, and there were literally 60 songs.
Wow.
And honestly, about 30 of them were superb. They were just amazing. I mean, it was just like, wow, how can I whittle it down to the first album? And when I, as you said, and as Larry had told you, that I went to see them at the Trocadero in Philadelphia, and Tom and Eric were just like great. The other 2 guys were not quite as great, although, and I can't remember the names, but they went to their own way and became Brittany Fox, actually.
Yeah, right. So you know what? You didn't have to worry about whether or not you had to look over your shoulder.
Yes, I got Jeff and Fred in, and we put the band together, and I got them together with Andy Johns, which was a story unto itself. I mean, that was a most bizarre but superb, album that came out of it. But Andy was like in the middle of his one of his hot streaks of chemicals, etc.
Yes. The laboratory was open for business.
Oh, absolutely. I told you the story about Tom calling me and saying come out, he's bleeding. I think I told you the story.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but yeah, it turned out amazingly well. And the fact that Cinderella, that album, just blew into the charts, right behind Bon Jovi, and it was just an amazing time for them and then for me as well. The fact that I had these 2 or 3 artists at the same time on the charts, and then I had Kingdom Come right on the tail of that.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. You're on a run. I skipped over a few. Dexy Midnight Runners and Men Without Hats. Tell me about those signings and what you saw in the bands, because you're referring to all of these acts that you were involved with, and while they may have been limited in the amount of big hits, the individual songs for those 2 acts stood the test of time, and they have sustained them from a career standpoint in terms of being able to tour to this very day if they choose to.
Well, Men Without Hats, they had their they had a Safety Dance, which I loved, and then their label folded, and I was aware of Ivan and the band, because we were very popular in French Canada.
Right.
he sent his new demos to me, and they weren't, you know, I really thought they were a really quirky, interesting band even back in the day. And when I heard the new demos, I was disappointed, except for there was one song at the end of the demo which had this little machine click, you know, sound, and it was really very interesting, and it had a popping sound. And I invited Ivan, the singer, down in New York, and we went through the album. And I said, Ivan, you know what? Yeah, you guys are really great. I'm going to tell you something, and please, you know, don't punch me in the face. But keep that one song that's not quite finished, the popping one, and rewrite that, and all the other 9 songs get rid of, and write new songs that are who you are, and not try to be something who you're not, which is, again, a piece of advice that I would give to every band, basically.
Right.
And, you know, a couple of months later, he came back, and the songs were great. We went over to London. I can't remember who's the producer. I think it was Hugh Jones. We put together Pop Goes the World. And that came out, and it was a huge hit for him. And in fact, a couple of other small things. There was one song called On Tuesday, which is a follow-up, which actually did very well. And we wanted a flute sound. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to call Ian Anderson.
Wow. Yeah.
And like I said, what you could do that.
And he was taking your calls, for the record.
Well, he came in and did his part, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we you know, so it was a lot of fun doing that. And I'm really happy that I'm still friends with all of the bands that I've worked with, and there's been no situation, as far as I know anyway, with any of the bands that, you know, I work with, that we've all remained friends through whatever, you know, situation we've been in.
That again underscores, you know, who you were and are as an individual, but, you know, also as an executive, because not all executives can cite having that kind of a track record where the artists still want to talk to them now after those days. And so I'm not surprised, but again, that's pretty amazing.
Well, it was something that was important to me, because I wasn't, you know, I never considered myself. It's weird when I mentioned the word executive, I didn't think of myself as an executive. I considered myself as someone that could help see the visions of the band come to fruition, however they saw, as far as I could do, and as far as I could help. And you know, and again, it was important for me as well that these bands were, again, unique, and also really good at what they did. Not really good, great at what they did. And that includes, you know, a band like a Bon Jovi, as well as, you know, Dream Theater, as well as other bands that I guess didn't quite make it, like a Dan Reed Network, or you know, I was thinking the other day of, you know, I signed the Rembrandts.
Oh, great. Those 2 guys were amazing.
Amazing, you know. And I was just thinking about that the other day, and they gave me the demo of the first album, and it was just amazing. It was great, and I said, okay, I love these tracks. Let's go and make the record. And so we went in the studio. I'm blanking on who I got to produce it, and it wasn't as good. So I said to George, the manager, and to Danny and Phil, you know what? The demos you made are better than what you've produced. We're going to put this album out and just remaster the demos. And we just started, you know, remastering. We started putting the record out. And then George, the manager, George Giz, said, we just got an offer to do this song for this TV show called Friends.
Yeah.
And
like winning the lottery.
Oh man. And so we already had the record out. So we had to literally come back and throw that on, make the album. And
they call it stripping it in, right?
Exactly what we did.
Yeah. And yeah, you know what? I mean, Dan, you mentioned Danny. he had a couple of solo records that were pretty amazing too, and it's just like, you know, the the world has been deprived of some great pop music. So many people should have heard those records.
Absolutely.
But
Danny was superb. It's
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. But again, a testament, you can't teach somebody to have a good set of ears and a vision. Forget about you being a musician, a songwriter, and a creator. But those are, those are things I think you can't teach somebody that. You just it's kind of some of it's kind of gut, and boy, if it was an easy science, we'd all have it mastered. And trust me, most people don't have it mastered that were paid to do what you were doing.
yeah. Again, you've asked me, and other people have asked me how. It's got the music has got to hit you. And again, it should not hit you with lights and views and analytics. It's got to hit you with your ears, with your head, with your heart, and with your gut and your soul.
Your
And,
soul.
and
Yeah.
that's the only way. I mean, I just remember in 1960, was it 62, 63, when I first heard "Love Me Do."
Yeah.
It just hit me everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere,
You didn't have to think about it. It was a reaction, right? Just a yeah.
and that I knew then. That's when I said, "Okay, I'm going to be a rock star."
All right, Derek, it's official. We have to save the world. We're bringing you out of retirement. I'm not taking no for an answer. D Diamond, Daryl, and Pantera, you brought up these guys, but again, you had the vision, and so heartbreaking,
Oh,
how we lost him, but you helped bring him to the masses.
again, another band that when I went to see them, I think I told you the story, but when
Yeah.
I was running a company, and there's other people to do that, but I said I've got to see them myself, and within 3 songs, I just knew that they had it. There's something, there are certain things and certain people that you just know that they have something which no other band has. I mean, when I saw Phil, their kind of new front guy, and Vinny and Dimebag and their Rex,
Yeah.
the 3 songs, I just knew they were not just special. They were leaders in whatever field they were, And I said I signed them to a fairly cheap deal, to be honest with you. But I just knew that they weren't going to be on MTV. That was, MTV weren't playing that kind of music at that point,
Right.
and radio was not going to play, this music at that time. It was AOR. They were playing Toto, and they were playing Journey, and God knows what else.
Right.
So, but the fact that they made me a fan within 3 songs. I was a real fan. I am a fan. I knew that if I put them on the road and help them, keep their, make sure they had money to survive on the road, that would be the way to break them. Because if they turn me, this jaded executive, if you like, into a fan,
Yeah.
Real fans of like metal and rock would be turned on immediately. And this is what happened. I introduced them to their manager, Walter O'Brien, in Concrete.
Yeah.
And, they went on the road, and literally before the album came out, they were already like playing to thousands of people. And then Cowboys came out, and it blew into the charts. And
I remember that.
I remember the head of Atlantic, and this is that he had no clue who they were, and he called me into his office. I was at ACO. He said, "Hey, come in. Now, what's this band Pantera? Is it some kind of hip hop band?" And this is boring.
Yeah.
No, Doug. His name is Doug Moore. I said, "No,
You gave him front row tickets, right, and forced them to sit through the show, and then you questioned them. What are your thoughts now?
this is in those. I mean, no, they do. These guys used to do Houdinis. Is what they're called. They show up on stage, and then they'd be gone, and then they'd ask someone, "What was it like?" And they'd send a note to the band saying, "You guys were great."
Oh God, I love that. I never heard. I had not heard that term before, but it's appropriate.
Doing a Houdini. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that it makes perfect sense for sure. We talked about AC/DC, but I got to spend a little more time on it. They just announced, incredibly, U.S. football stadium dates,
Right.
which unquestionably will be wildly successful. We talked about, how you made a baseball trade, so to speak. I'll give you my Stevie Nicks for your AC/DC, so to speak.
Right.
And they were kind of falling out of favor. AC/DC was basically close to being dropped.
Yeah.
But I love how you stuck your neck out. Again, you went by your instincts. And not only that, you paired him with the right guy and Bruce Fairburn, but also I love how you described that you got like the golden ticket. It's like if Willy Wonka was in the music business, you got the golden ticket, and that was the ability to actually see them creating and recording in the studio, which most record executives were not afforded that opportunity. And I don't think that was just something that they didn't think about. And you got to witness kind of the magic of how Malcolm and Angus created that special blend, as guitarists, and I just loved reading that.
What was interesting to me as a musician was to see how this band how they rocked, and usually a band, it's the rhythm section that pushes the band.
Yeah,
That's what a band does. You get the bass and drummer, and they're
right.
the ones that push the band. With AC/DC, it was just amazing because they obviously did it from the beginning. But I watched them do it, and Chris, the drums, there were no fills. They did a kick and a snare, no fills at all. Angus was the one that was the rhythm section. Malcolm.
Malcolm, yeah.
I'm blanking. Malcolm was the rhythm section. Malcolm was the heart and soul of that band, and he was the rhythm and section of the band. The drums did hit on the one, and there's one kick and a snare, no fills, and that's the magic of AC/DC. And I'd never been able to pinpoint it until I saw them record, and this is what they did. They said, okay, no fills. Kick, snare, maybe a da ba, and the rhythm. That was all Angus.
Malcolm. Yeah, no, right. Which were hooks unto themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
To this day, and have you maintained contact with Angus through the years?
Not recently, but I'm trying to, because we're trying to put a documentary together about the Moscow show, which is explained in the book here, about the event, not just the show, which is the biggest ever outdoor show,
historic,
but also what happened before that and how we got to put it together, and the and what led up to it, and also the corruption that went on. I mean, we literally had to fly backwards and forwards to Moscow with suitcases full of like $500,000 to give to Boris Yeltsin and the mayor and the army. It was insanity.
Yeah. Which after that, of course, he was a big fan. Needless to say, go figure. Don M is just saying, hey, I saw you. I saw you in Chicago in the 70s. David saying, I saw you open for Jethro Tull at the Baltimore Civic Center as a teen. Mind still blown. Have you seen the cover version of On Reflection by Joe Deere? Inspired audio and video.
No, I haven't seen that. No, there's been an interesting thing is for me, and I think it's wonderful, is that we were, for some reason, the music, Gentle Giants music, we were filmed a lot. I don't know why, on a lot of European TV and even American TV. So there's a lot of music of the band on YouTube, and what is encouraging to me, and I think is is great is that younger musicians, real musicians, who want to play their instruments really well, are playing along with and trying to sort of play along with some of the music we're playing with. And I think that's great. That again, it isn't about just getting on a computer and pretending you're whatever you are. It's about a musician really trying to emulate what we did. And in fact, one of the wonderful things that happened over the last few years was, it was a terrible thing, but it was a wonderful thing, was during COVID, when my son Noah and my brother Ray, who passed away unfortunately a couple of years ago, they put the fan video together of all the fans playing a different part of the song called Proclamation. And all the fans, about 150 fans, or more, 200 fans, played parts, and we put it together, and it became the event of the year on Prod magazine and everything. But it was wonderful to see these young people play the parts of what we played.
It's amazing, and I think when Ray hears this next installment that you're going to be unveiling on the public in the second quarter of 2026, I can't help but think, boy, that would put a big smile on his face.
Yeah, it will. I know it will.
Yeah. No doubt about it. You're keeping the legacy alive.
Well, if it's a legacy, I hope so. But it certainly makes me, and I think the band and anyone who liked the band back in the day, I think they'll enjoy it.
No doubt. Fred Klatz, thanks for being here. Also, Edward H. as well. Don W., thank you for being here. And Stephen M. has an interesting question. How would Eric or Derek, the executive side, regard Derek and the boys at the time of Civilian? Would he have encouraged the band to continue?
That's interesting. And I've thought about that recently a lot.
Have you?
Yeah, I have, because we obviously did it in 1980. It wasn't the 70s anymore,
right?
I think that had it become a really popular album and a hit, if you like, we possibly would have continued. But then I think, this is terrible to say, but I think we might have morphed into a kind of a band that may have been, someone would have dropped out at some point and become a band that, a tribute band and a band that wasn't quite what we were. We were a real band. It wasn't, as I said, we weren't members that got together for tours.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, it's a strange thing to say, but I'm glad it didn't happen, and I'm glad we stopped when we did, because we were still kind of on top. It was a really good album, I think, personally.
It was a terrific album.
But
and sometimes it's just question marks as to try to answer, well, why didn't it work? I mean, there's some thoughts, in terms of the label's efforts, but
the truth be told, I think that we were on the album. We were there's a name, executive produced by Lee Abrams.
Yes.
And Lee Abrams was a consultant to AWR Radio, and I think that there was an element of radio thinking it could have been construed as like pay for play or whatever.
Right. They repelled against the album as a result.
Exactly that, and it was my idea, and I take blame, credit or whatever it is for it. Lee had a good idea to make it, simplify it, and we did it on our own. But in some ways, I'm glad that it was the Swan Song, which is a really good album. But I'm glad we didn't carry on, because I think, and I've seen other bands become bands that weren't really the bands they used to be.
Well, and think about it. think about it. You would have had to have faced the MTV era, and so you would have had to change to some degree,
Exactly that. That's
right?
exactly that. And look at me. I mean, I'm
Oh,
not.
you're a good-looking guy. You were a good-looking guy back then, but I'm just not sure, if you know, if
Yeah,
you wanted to embrace a bunch of long-legged women and fishnet stockings. I'm not feeling that.
well, I was thinking about the same thing. I mean, do I wear fishnet stockings or?
Or do you embrace them? Yeah, either way, it just didn't. Yeah, it doesn't seem right. But I'll tell you what is right, and that is you have an opportunity to own a copy of this amazing book, an incredible story, and this should hit the silver screen or the streaming screen or whatever we call that now. Giant Steps: My Improbable Journey from Stage Lights to Executive Heights by the one and only Derek Shulman. And by the way, the man has graciously agreed to personally sign copies. This will be an heirloom, a piece of rock and roll memorabilia in history. The guy is just so storied, and it's incredible. I learn things every day when we get together and we talk about it. Dream Theater, my God, you dropped a microphone right there. You had some interesting signings like Enough's Enough. I'm not gonna torch you there, but I'm from Chicago, and they certainly had. There was definitely something there, but sometimes lifestyle and bands can be a handful, and that could be challenging for sure. But I want to leapfrog over to your ATCO contract running out. You take a little time out as a breather, and then Roadrunner, and you you discover a band called Slipknot, which again is a kind of outside of the boundaries of a slam dunk. So share with us a little bit about how you experienced them. You first saw them live, I think, right? What was the intent?
But Monty Connor, who was our
Yeah,
A&R,
yeah,
he brought them in, and the company was, had to sort of pare it down and do some things to be good at one thing. And I had to tell the owner that look, you've got a bunch of guys here that live the lifestyle. And when Monty brought in the Slipknot, he said, "You got to see this band." And when I went with him to see the band, it was like, okay, I've never seen or heard anything like this. There was
yeah,
such guys on stage,
yeah.
and it was like the wildest, craziest, thing that again unique and
Corey's a force of nature, isn't he?
absolutely,
Yeah,
completely. But
yeah,
they held it together, and
yeah,
they were, and the crowd went apeshit. It was so I had to say, okay, we had a limited amount of resources, but you know what? There's a green button here to press to spend as much money as we could
yeah,
to make sure that Slipknot got the best promotion, marketing, everything else, and we made sure that the public was aware that this band was a special band, and of course it went haywire. I mean, we put out Wait and Bleed, and the first album just went flying and it was the first ever platinum record that Roadrunner ever had.
You know what else is interesting too is that if at a distance you'd say, well, this is a band that might appeal to just a specific generation of fans, but there was a wide range of demographics as far as fans go. I mean, I know older guys that were like eating it up, loving that band.
Yeah, because they were so different. I mean, they
Yeah,
were they were. I mean, they were a hip hop band. They were a metal band. It was something again, a unique something which was unique and something
yeah,
which real. I mean, they weren't pretending to be anything else. So it was like, and when I saw them, I said, Monty, you're right. This is it. This is the band that's going to make the label a successful label, and it did.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if Monty got a promotion or a raise, but he got to keep his job. That's for sure.
Well, he did okay. I'm happy to say.
Yeah, I have a feeling he was taken care of. And Nickelback, I really want to talk about this because this is a band that many to stay would rail on. mind-boggling to me considering the fan appeal and the success. I still don't totally get it. But when you were turned on to them, you knew what was there. They weren't a household name by any means, but it's interesting as far as your business strategy. You kind of played your hand coyly with these guys. You didn't want to make it look like you were tripping over yourself to get them signed. You took a little bit of time.
Well, I mean,
my interpretation of your story.
They recorded their first album themselves in Vancouver, The State it was called, and they weren't taken seriously by really even Canadian labels actually.
Right.
I got the tape from my A&R guys, and I kept putting the song called "Leader of Men" on, and it's funny when you hear it reminded me of when I first heard "Runaway." It was when I the downtime or when I was a little bored or whatever, I kept putting this song on and said, man, this song has just got something that's hitting me in the various places I described before. And I said to my A&R guy, Ron, tell me about this band. And we talked about it. I said, I want to go see them. So I went up to Vancouver and saw them and listened to the album. And it was really good. It was a really, really good album. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign you guys to not a cheap deal, but a deal which made sense. Yeah. And we put out this song called "Leader of Men," and it blew into the top 20 or top 10 at radio. And I had a promotion that I just brought over from RCA. He was like raving about it, and the album went gold, and it obviously set them on their way. And so we started out to put the second album together. And when I heard the demo of "How You Remind Me," I just knew that, okay, this is a band that
Hey Dirt. Yeah.
this is a once in a year, every 5 years song.
Yeah.
And it went out there and just blew up into something and made the label. It was the highlight of the label and the death knell of the label.
Is that right? And are you talking about in terms of credibility? No,
in reality, because the owner, who I was just running the company,
right?
He, after many years of having artists sell a few thousand, suddenly there were every week there was a few 100,000.
Yeah, didn't have a credit line to support that.
Exactly that. No, but it was. Then he thought that every band should have that.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, the bar was set too high.
Yeah, exactly that. And so every band, and so it was the staff was looking for these kinds of bands. At the same time, he took loans in Europe, and unfortunately, they weren't. They didn't come through, and so they limited the resources, and he had to sell the company.
Yeah,
which is tragic.
To Warner, right?
Warner.
Yeah, yeah. So I have to ask you, not to put words in your mouth, as sometimes I have a tendency to do, and I apologize, Derek, but when you were dealing with Nickelback, there were like two extremes where fans loved them, and then there were critics and some music fans that hated on them. But there's this old adage, which is like, you know what, if a band is good or decent, you don't want to even be there. They either have to evoke one of two extreme responses. And so that kind of love-hate thing sometimes could play into a favorable situation, because you're getting all of this social commentary and press, whether it's negative or positive, but the band is front and center. And I'm just curious if you looked at that as like, just roll with it, because either way we're getting all this awareness.
Yeah, exactly that. Roll with it. I mean, I don't think Chad did himself favors.
Yeah.
With the responses, and that's something that you try to avoid.
It's fueling the fire.
Yeah, exactly that. You don't respond. But Chad Kroeger is just a great songwriter.
Yeah.
And also has a great voice in the band.
Yeah.
has some fantastic, songs that I dare anyone to say they don't know how You Remind Me sounds like, because
Right.
it's a kind of classic in its own way. Again, there are bands that are sometimes our own worst enemy. You mentioned one earlier with Enough's Enough. I mean, they could have been and should have been as big as some of the other bands we're talking about, but
Yep.
they were self-defeating in their drug habits. And sometimes you can open your mouth too much, like Lenny Wolf did with Kingdom Come.
Yeah, it might be a sign, but when the drug dealer says, "Are you sure you want more?" That might be a sign. Yeah, you're probably crossing the line. Not to make light of it, but Donnie and Chip reunited recently, and they still do a few things to their credit. They're still standing and still playing. And this is again a reminder to everybody: we're gathered here this evening to celebrate this brilliant autobiography, Giant Steps, signed by the man. You got to pull the trigger if you want this, whether you're a Gentle Giant fan or you're a music industry fan, because we're down to less than 50 copies signed. When they're gone, they're gone. Great holiday gift as well. This is music history. I'm not sure Derek's going to return my calls for a while. I'm hopeful. He will. But, you got to pull the trigger right now. Just hit the shop button on TalkShopLive socials, comment shop, will DM you a link. And there's no greater way to show how much you appreciate such a brilliant artist, as well as an incredible guy with a set of ears and gut and instinct that brought so much great music to us. So, Derek, we know 2026 has this wonderful Gentle Giant reissue. Anything else you can share with us fans out there?
Well, there's talk of a documentary. Not talk. There's it's in kind of limited pre-production about the hip hop world embracing the music of Gentle Giant.
It's wild,
which is unbelievable to me as well, and that's something, another story which we haven't touched on. And
sounds like another show in the works.
But yeah, so that's possible as well, and that's in pre-production from what I understand.
I love that. That's great news. And I certainly hope we can count on you coming back for that next installment for Gentle Giant.
It would be my pleasure. You know that, man.
Thank you so much, and a big thanks to someone else who shares your namesake. That's Noah Shulman, who also I appreciate the fact he still returns my calls. And thank you, Noah. And it's Tom Seabrook at Jawbone Press. Congratulations. We finally figured out a way to get these books past customs. Go figure. And also to our good friend Chip Ruggieri, who at Chipster PR. And I know Chip is going through a few challenges with his mother and sending good thoughts and prayers. And I think she's doing okay. So hang in there, Chip. To Brian, Tina, Joe, Lavani, Jenny, Marty, Kate, Sam Brendan behind the scenes, Brad Edwards, all from Talk Shop Live. Good job, Brad, as always. But most importantly, to the one and only Derek Shulman. Derek, before we part company, last words you'd like to share with the fans this evening and this holiday season?
Just just enjoy yourselves, be good to yourselves, and be good to other people, and be true to yourself, and the word love is the word.
The gospel according to Derek Shulman. I could not have stated it better. Absolutely a great message. And let's embrace that. And while you're at it, pick up copies for your friends and your family for this great book. I can't think of a more unique gift this holiday season. And your friends and family will thank you for it. You've worked hard this year. You deserve it as well. Give the gift of Derek Shulman. Derek, thank you again so much for being here. I always enjoy us getting together, and I always take away. I'm just inspired. And thank you for all that you've done for us fans musically on all fronts.
My pleasure, man. It is and always will be.
Thank you so much. And with that, everyone, stay safe, enjoy life. Happy holidays to all you. Rock on. See you soon. So long, everybody.
Bye-bye.